to change. There can be stable triangles and unstable triangles. Stable triangles want to stay the same. Unstable triangles want to change. If I go to someone's house and let's say it's a cookout in their backyard, and they bring me a bowl of chili, and there's steam coming off the chili, and they say, "Careful, this chili is hot." What are they saying? Heat hot? So temperature hot? Maybe. What else could they be saying? Could be spicy. How would I know which one? Taste it. So to put my tongue out there, have my tongue be the sacrificial lamb. That's a possibility, right? So the words have meanings based on the context. I might want to clarify. Are you talking about temperature hot or spicy hot? Oh, I meant spicy hot. Oh, okay, good to know. Oh, it's not spicy, it's just hot temperature-wise. Oh, okay, thank you. It's good to know, right? So just because someone says something is hot, based on the context, it could be different things. If I see someone, oh, they're hot, or they have some hot pants on, or it's hot outside, or I'm hot to trot. Depending on these different things, like hot can have different meanings based on the context. Stability can have different meanings based on the context. So what I don't want you to do is assume that stability is good and instability is bad. That's not how it works. Stable and unstable have nothing to do with how healthy the triangle is. You can have stable triangles that are very unhealthy. You can have unstable triangles that are very unhealthy. You can have unstable triangles that are healthy and good. We can also have stable triangles that are healthy and good. So stable and unstable have nothing to do with how healthy the triangle is. Are we on board with this? Okay. I promise you, some of us will say yes, and then in 30 minutes, you'll revert back to your ideas of what stable and unstable means, and you'll think unstable triangles are bad. That's not the case. Sometimes I don't want a stable triangle when it comes to certain things. So stable and unstable have nothing to do with the amount of health in the triangle. It's just referring to whether or not the triangle is resistant to change because it wants to stay the same. That's a stable triangle. And an unstable triangle. Unstable triangles want to change, whereas stable triangles want to stay the way that they are. How are we feeling about this? Okay. Every time I present this, I add an extra 30 seconds of explaining the difference between stable and unstable. Stable triangles want to stay the same. Unstable triangles want to change. And stable and unstable, those two labels have nothing to do with the amount of dysfunction happening in the triangle. We on board? We'll see, I'll probably repeat this again. So, I put the no, I'm supposed to be able to click and share the no. Pretend the no's not there. Do the labels of stable, unstable describe the amount of dysfunction in the triangle? No, not at all. We just know that stable triangles resist change because they're stable, they don't want to change. And unstable triangles want to change. They don't like being unstable, they're seeking change. They're trying to become stable. So there are two types of stable triangles, two types of unstable triangles, and I'll explain it to you now, and I'll explain it to you another 70 times. So if I'm not a good teacher, I'll just pound repetition over and over and over. Stable triangles want to stay the same. They do not want to move. Here are two types of stable triangles. These three people all get along, one big happy family. This is also a stable triangle. These two people get along, and they both don't get along with the third person. These two people have a common enemy. These are two types of stable triangles. And stable triangles want to stay the same. They resist change. Doesn't mean that they can't change, but they are resistant to change. Unstable triangles. Unstable triangles want to change. These are two unstable triangles. These two people don't get along, but they do get along with this third person. This third person is stuck in the middle. They're trying to maintain a good relationship with this side and with this side, but these two people are fighting like cats and dogs. That's an unstable triangle. Here's the other unstable triangle. Nobody gets along with anyone else. Unstable triangles want to change. They're seeking change. They're leaning towards change because they want to become stable. Stable triangles are resistant to change because they want to stay the way that they are. So here's an example of a stable triangle. Ruth, Naomi, Boaz. Everyone gets along. This is a stable triangle. And stable triangles want to stay the same. Ooh, I'm liking this. And we have handouts from this morning. Who does not have a handout? I can hand this out. You don't have a handout? Okay, here we go. There's one here. So we're continuing the handouts from earlier. Great. Okay, here's another stable triangle. In Genesis 16, this is a stable triangle. This is where Sarai says, hey, we're having some barrenness. Let's try and find a surrogate. Oh, look, I have a handmaid who's able to help us. In Genesis 16, this is a stable triangle. We are all getting along. We know this will change, though, right? We know this will change. Exodus 2, we have Miriam, baby Moses, Pharaoh's daughter. We all get along, and here's our first interlocking triangle on the screen right here. Here's Jochebed, the biological mother, baby Moses, and all of a sudden there's this sweet synergy between these different triangles. Let's look at the number of triangles in this family. On the top left, we have Jochebed, Miriam, Pharaoh's daughter. This is one triangle, and this is a stable triangle. We see this? We all get along. On the top right, we have Jochebed, Pharaoh's daughter, baby Moses. This is also a stable triangle, and stable triangle wants to stay the same. It's resistant to change. On the bottom right, we have Miriam, Pharaoh's daughter, baby Moses. This is also a stable triangle. It's resistant to change. On the bottom left, we have Jochebed, baby Moses, and Miriam. This is also a stable triangle. So there are 4 triangles here. All of them are stable, which means they're all kind of working together in concert, resistant to change. How are you feeling about this? Okay? Oh, good news. If you put your thumbs up, great. If you're not sure if you want to put your thumbs up, we have a lot of repetition. This is the hammer. I'm just going to keep hitting this over and over and over. Between the people, there are 4 triangles. Yes, you're counting triangles. You're seeing the hypotenuse between them. They're crossing, but this is not a real triangle. There's not a third person here in the middle. Yep. Thank you. Okay. No bond is stronger than 2 workers who hate the same person. So me, my best coworker, and the new coworker, we have a common enemy. This is also a stable triangle. Because every time there's a break, we talk about, when we're having a little snack or little nuts, we're talking about this new coworker and we don't like them. This is a stable triangle. Because these 2 get along, and we both agree this person on the top, not so good. We do not get along. And we are in agreement when it comes to this. This is a stable triangle. There's tension, but it's still a stable triangle. This triangle itself, separate from the 2 little chipmunks, the 3 chipmunks in the triangle itself is resistant to change. This is a stable triangle. Here's another stable triangle. I'm a Seahawks fan, and I'm still a little bit salty about a Super Bowl a few years ago. So even though Bill Belichick and Tom Brady are gone from the Patriots, I will never be a Patriots fan, ever. There's always going to be tension between me and the Patriots. So I'm always against the Patriots, and I'm always for whoever's playing against the Patriots. So these 2 parties have a common enemy, and this is never going to change. Yes?
Are you seriously a Seahawks fan?
Yes. Why was there a wow?
Because you're from California.
Yeah. I was a pastor here at Green Lake Church for 3 years, and I grew up in Walla Walla for a few years. So I spent like maybe 12 years in the Northwest. So maybe not as deep a fan as some other people here, but I follow. And I'm glad we traded, what?
We'll still give you bonus points.
Okay, great. I'm glad we traded Russell Wilson when we did. Amazing. Great. Okay, here we go. That's not what we're talking about. Okay, Genesis 3:15, and God said, and I will put enmity, tension, distance, discord between you and the woman and between your seed and her seed. So the way God set it up, he set it up like this, right? We know there's tension between God and Satan, and he said, I'm going to put enmity between you 2, and hopefully God and humanity will maintain their relationship. So as it's set up, this is a stable triangle. Let's notice the triangle is resistant to change, but some parties in the triangle want something different, right? Satan wants to, even the way he was talking to Eve, are you sure God has your best interest in mind? I'm trying to sow doubt there. Trying to maybe present some tension here, or say that maybe he's a better leader for humanity. And so Satan might be trying to change this, but as this triangle itself was set up as stable, even though other people might want something different, but as it's set up, this triangle is resistant to change. It doesn't mean it can't change, but it's resistant to change. It could be me, another person, a loved one, and it could be computer games, or gambling, or alcohol, or workaholism, or a chronic illness, whatever that may be, some sort of addiction, anything up here, me and the other person, if we both agree that these things are bad, this is a stable triangle, because I don't get along with those things. The other person doesn't get along with those things, but we get along together. This is a stable triangle. And stable triangles, what do they want? They want to stay the same. Great. Here's an unstable triangle. This is the most difficult triangle to navigate, especially if you're Y. Yes?
Back to that other one. But they're both connected to the top, even though it's bad? Is that what we're saying? They're both connected, though.
Yep, so I have tension with the top, and this other person has tension. We don't like these things happening. So we are in agreement that this is bad. This is a stable triangle, because we get along down here. And the triangle itself, as it's set up like this, is resistant to change. Doesn't mean it can't change, but it's resistant to change. Here's an unstable triangle. Y is caught in the middle, trying to maintain a good relationship with X and a good relationship with Z. But it's difficult because X and Z try and keep pulling Y into their business. And the more you get involved in other and become responsible for trying to resolve other people's distress, the more you experience the distress of that relationship. So it's difficult for Y to be in this triangle because Y is constantly getting pulled in different directions. So here's me, friend 1 and friend 2. If they don't get along, how are we going to all go to a party together if I know that these two people are fighting like cats and dogs? It's going to be an awkward situation for me. Do I just invite one instead of the other? Do I invite both? A little bit tricky. Maybe it's you and your partner and a teenager. Maybe you get along with a teenager, but right now, for whatever's happening, there's some tension between the teenager and the partner. So you're caught, like, you're supposed to support your partner, but you want to be a parent to the teenager. Difficult situation. Here's a story from Acts 15. Here's Paul and Barnabas and John Mark. Right now, this is a stable triangle. But something happens. There's some tension between Paul and John Mark. And it becomes an unstable triangle. And Barnabas is caught in the middle. And if you remember the story in Acts 15, Paul says, look, Barnabas, you got to make a choice. Do you want to do mission work with me or John Mark? And he's trying to put pressure on Barnabas. He's expecting Barnabas to go, well, of course, I want to do mission work with you, Paul. That's what he's hoping, so that there can be suddenly tension between Barnabas and John Mark. But instead, Barnabas says, you know what? I'm going to do ministry with John Mark. And all of a sudden, there's tension between Paul and Barnabas, and this becomes a stable triangle again. These two doing mission work together, and Paul is on the outs not doing mission work with them. And there's tension between Barnabas and Paul, tension between Paul and John Mark. So it was stable, it became unstable, and unstable triangles want to change, but sometimes, as it's seeking stability, it's not necessarily the stability that we were expecting. And all of a sudden, oh, now Paul is doing it by himself. And he thought he was going to have Barnabas with him. That's not what happened. All right, so maybe it's me and the other person. I'm trying to get along with the other person, but the other person kind of enjoys their good relationship with whatever this is up here. Could be watching TV, could be playing music. I put 1,000 things up here. I should probably not just limit it to addiction. I should probably put like fitness and nutrition and farming or working on their car, whatever it wants to be. And I'm like, man, I don't like all the racket in the garage when you're wrenching on your tractor. I just don't like that. It just bugs me. But the other person likes it. So now they're kind of like, wow, well, I want to spend time with Bryan, man, but I love changing my oil. So how am I going to make this decision? So the other person's caught in the middle, and I might try and put pressure on this person. Hey, look, you have to make a choice. It's me or your car restoration. And the other person might say, okay, I'll work with my cars. See ya. That's not what I was expecting. I wanted something different. But it's the triangle itself that is kind of pushing people to somehow figure out a way to make the triangle stable. Because unstable triangles are seeking stability. This may not be what I was wanting. What I was hoping is the other person would say, you know what, it's just a hunk of metal, and you're a hunk of a person, so I'll spend time with you. But instead, it chose the metal. I'm like, oh no, I did not play that well. Okay, so the top are unstable triangles. The bottom are stable triangles. So if you end up over here on the top left, where it's unstable, nobody gets along with anyone else, if you want to get over to the bottom right, this stable triangle, this is not always the best situation. Sometimes people think, oh, there's one big happy family, but if there's some sort of addiction, I actually don't want everybody to get along here, right? I don't want to have an addiction, and my other person have an addiction, and us get along. All of a sudden, we're just promoting this sort of behavior. So everyone all getting along with this sort of stable triangle in the bottom right isn't necessarily good or healthy, depending on who the parties are in the triangle. But if I'm here, and I want to seek some sort of stability, I'm going to move from this triangle to repairing one of the legs of the triangle, and this becomes a stable triangle. And if I want to repair other legs, I have to come up here to this unstable triangle on the top right. And sometimes a lot of our relationships bounce back and forth between stable and unstable, right here. And it's a difficult situation to be in. Matthew 6:34. No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate one and love the other, or you will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. So if I work at McDonald's and I also work at Dairy Queen, and I'm very careful about having shifts on Sundays, Mondays, and Tuesdays at Dairy Queen, the rest of the days on McDonald's, but for some reason I'm called in to a McDonald's shift on Sunday, I have to make a critical decision because both employers are expecting me to be there. How do I choose Dairy Queen, but then get fired from McDonald's? Or I choose McDonald's, get reprimanded at Dairy Queen. I'm in a very difficult position. This is what's happening. I have to make a choice between two different masters. Here's one unstable triangle. I actually don't know where Pastor John lands when it comes to drums or no drums. I didn't see any drums up here today. I don't know if djembes, how people deal with that, or other sorts of rhythm, but there might be some people who attend this church that are actually pro-drum. They want to, be it on have a little percussion. Then there are some other people who do not want that. And I'm guessing Pastor John is trying to maintain a good relationship with both parties. So he's going to be kind of stuck in the middle. Team law versus team grace. Some people like to emphasize the grace. People like to emphasize the law. He's probably trying to maintain a good relationship with both sides, with both parties. Because as soon as he automatically sides with one, then the people who he did not choose might get upset, creates tension between them. All of a sudden, this unstable triangle becomes a stable triangle. I am in many unstable triangles, and they're difficult to navigate. And the triangles themselves might be seeking stability, but I may not be willing to make that choice. I might say, I'd rather us be in an unstable triangle so I don't have to lose either one of you. It's a difficult situation to be in. I didn't know if this family was team dogs or team cats. They seem to be team cats, which is okay. But in some families, maybe one person is team dogs, the other team is team cats, and it can be difficult to navigate which one we're going to be supporting. I don't know what Bremerton's approach to masks or no masks coming to church was during COVID, but I'm guessing there was a mix. I'm guessing some people were wanting to wear masks, some people were not wanting to wear masks for different reasons. So John, I'm guessing, had to navigate some of this. How about this? Black Lives Matter versus Red and Blue Lives Matter. Some tension potentially between these different people, these different parties. John trying to navigate this. We have alternative methods to responding to COVID versus vaccinations. How do we decide, how do we approach responding to this COVID pandemic we're still, I don't know if we're post-COVID now. I mean, people are still getting COVID, but it's different than it was before. But how are we navigating this sort of thing? We have different points of view about how we're supposed to respond to this. Global warming as just people hugging trees, or global warming as just God hugging us closer. How he's responding to people and their responses to the environment, he's probably trying to maintain a good relationship with both sides. Before I came here, I did not know what color this was going to be, the carpet. It looks like you did not go with the lime green or the burnt orange. You went with a more neutral, very palatable color. But sometimes churches are split over the carpet color, right? So the pastor has to make a choice. You choose this or we're leaving, or you choose this and we're going to make your life a big pain. Man, he has to choose between two. It's because the triangle itself that is unstable is seeking stability. It wants stability so bad. It's very unpleasant to be in an unstable triangle. Genesis 21, this is 5 chapters later than Genesis 16. Now, this is an unstable triangle. What's different between Genesis 21 versus Genesis 16? Anyone remember? The baby. Remember how we talked before about the addition of a third party can change the way two people interact? The baby isn't even here yet. It's on the way. And already it is changing the way between how Hagar and Sarah approach each other. Baby's not even here yet. It's already affecting their relationship. So now we're going to bring the baby into it. So we have an unstable triangle here, but we have a stable triangle here with Hagar, Sarah, and the baby, and it's clear Sarah wants nothing to do with the baby and does not like Hagar. So we have a stable triangle and an unstable triangle. How are we feeling about this? Okay? Yes, there's a hand back here.
Yeah, I'm still struggling with the whole thing.
Okay, let's bring the microphone back there, please.
said I'm still struggling with the whole stable, unstable triangle.
Okay. Okay. Let's start here. Does stable or unstable have anything to do with how healthy or dysfunctional the triangle is? No. We got to separate. That's the first thing. We got to separate that. Stable triangles want to stay the same. Unstable triangles want to change. This chair, can I separate this? Oh, this feels good. This is a stable chair. I know there's 4 legs, but just please roll with me on this. This is a stable chair. It feels pretty. I could probably stand on it if I needed to. I feel comfortable doing that, fairly comfortable. But I've probably also sat on chairs or stools that kind of move around, right? They kind of wiggle around. It's because you're trying to seek some sort of stability, and it's uncomfortable to sit on. That's what it's like with an unstable triangle. It's not comfortable. We can't always put our finger on it, and it's often because the triangle itself is unstable and it's seeking change. It wants to have all 4 legs, all 3 legs, on the ground firmly. Yes?
So what you're saying to me is opposite what I look at that picture. I'd say the bottom one would be unstable and the top one would be more stable.
Because we see the jagged lines, right?
No, because there's the relationship. She has no relation. She doesn't want to do with the baby, and she doesn't want to do with Hagar. That would be unstable to me.
Yeah. So this is why we need to separate stable and unstable from the amount of dysfunction in the triangle. There's a lot of tension here, right? But at least Hagar and the baby are on the same team, and we have a common enemy. So it looks like it's unstable, but at least everyone knows where they stand. Hagar and the baby know that Sarah doesn't like them, and they don't like Sarah, and that's it. Abraham up here, man, I'm trying to maintain a good relationship with Hagar. Man, maybe also with Sarah, but Sarah's pulling me. In fact, later on, Sarah's going to demand that Abraham basically make a choice, right, to send Hagar off to the desert. So it's difficult to be in this position at the top. How's this? That's helping? Okay. Guess what? I got more repetition coming. Okay, we're going to turn this triangle a little bit. So we have Hagar and Sarah and Abraham. Unstable triangle. And what do unstable triangles want to do? They want to change. That's right. They want to become stable. Let's bring in Isaac and Ishmael, huh? Let's bring all these people into the family. So I'm assuming Abraham wants to have a good relationship with Isaac and Ishmael. We know that Sarah likes Isaac. So right here on the top right, is this a stable or unstable triangle? This is stable. Everyone gets along. Great. How about here, Hagar, Ishmael, and Abraham? Stable or unstable? Good. So we have a stable triangle here, a stable triangle here, and an unstable triangle in the middle. But we also have this relationship between Sarah and Ishmael. We know Sarah does not like Ishmael. And we know that there's some tension between these 2 brothers because Ishmael ends up teasing Isaac. There's some tension between them. So here's this other unstable triangle. And we know there's tension here. So all of a sudden we have all these triangles. We have Hagar, Sarah, and Ishmael. This is a stable triangle because Hagar and Ishmael have a common enemy, Sarah. We know Sarah and Isaac have a common enemy, Ishmael, so that's also a stable triangle. So there's a lot of stuff going on in this family, and it's a mess, right? What a mess. So what is Sarah's elegant solution to this? Kick him out, right? I don't want to deal with all this chaos. Let's kick out Hagar and the boy. Let's get rid of him. Oh, so much better, right? The tension has disappeared. We never have to deal with that again. Right? No. We know that just because people move away or are kicked out, the tension we experience with them does not disappear. The tension that Sarah tried to get rid of, we are still living with today. So the solution to simplify the problem isn't always dealing with the problem. Because triangles are forever and can outlive the people in them. Sometimes even if someone has passed away or moved on, the idea of who they are, who they represent, is still present psychologically in the family. And that can change the way we interact. Here's another unstable triangle. Nobody gets along with anyone else. So Laban, Leah, and Jacob, this is an unstable triangle. This is an unstable triangle. And unstable triangles want to change. They want to become stable. Again, these are the pathways. If you want to move from here on the top left and become stable and eventually get here to the bottom right, you have to go through these two gates of this unstable triangle up here and the stable triangle down here. You have to repair different relationships. So triangles themselves have power, and because of this, the triangles themselves end up influencing our interaction with other people. We often blame the other people as being stubborn and unwilling to change, but it might be the triangle itself that is resisting the change. Or we might blame some people, well, sometimes we get along with them, sometimes I don't. Sometimes we're on good terms, sometimes we don't. There's a possibility that that relationship with the other person is part of a triangle that is stable or unstable and it's flopping back and forth. We blame the person when maybe we should consider the triangle. And understanding the triangle, stability and instability of the triangle can be a sweet key to unlocking why some relationships are so tricky. At this point in time, you might be thinking, wow, I still don't understand the difference between stable and unstable triangles. At this point, I'm kind of afraid to ask because someone else already tried that, but I still don't quite get it. I have good news for you. You have a chance to talk with people around you to try and find the answer. So try and talk with groups of people, 2, 3, 4, 5. What is the difference between stable and unstable triangle? Can you draw or provide an example of a stable triangle? Can you draw or provide an example of an unstable triangle? So get together, groups 2, 3, 4, 5, try and answer these questions, and when we're done, we'll tap into the wisdom of the group. All right. Who wants another minute? Okay, I'm feeling generous. You get another minute. All right, let's tap into the wisdom of the group. We might need a roaming mic for this. What is the difference between stable versus unstable triangles? Let's get the mic out there. Let's hear what you've been sharing with each other.
Stable ones want to remain the same, and unstable ones want to change.
Good. The triangles themselves, stable triangles want to stay the same. Remember, triangles have their own characteristics and aspects and personalities different from the people in them. The triangle itself that is stable wants to stay the same. It's resistant to change. Whereas unstable triangles, they want to change. They want to become stable. They're envious of the stable triangles. So unstable triangles are leaning and trying to change. Great. Can someone provide an example of a stable triangle?
So I thought about the example of right now, like my sister and I, we're not talking, and then there's tension. So there's tension between me and my sister. There's also tension between my wife and my sister because she feels like she's your sister, like you guys should be talking.
Right.
And then but between my wife and I, there's no tension.
Yes.
Okay.
That is a stable triangle. Yes. Hand in the back.
Pardon me, I have a question. Can you have two different triangles with the same person because of your perspective?
Can you have, so the same three people?
Yes, because like you can, let's say the three of us here. I don't talk to you, you don't talk to him, but I talk to him.
So you two get along, but neither of you talk to me.
Yes. But maybe to your perspective, you just don't talk because you're shy or you just don't speak our language. Do you understand what I'm saying?
So
Like
I may
the
not
perspective.
realize the triangle that I'm in. I might think that we are okay, whereas from your perspective, we are not okay.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Can the triangle differ just because of perspective?
Good question. So which side are you on when it comes to triangle? Good question. So is there tension or is there no tension?
For me, there is. For you, there's none.
So there is tension, I just don't know about it, right? So if there's tension in the triangle. I just don't know about it. So I think we're good, but we're not. Now I'd be super confused about, you and I are good. I don't talk with him, but why is it? So you must be stuck in the middle, and there's a chance you, me, and him you and I might share the same leg of the triangle with someone else over here. So this side might be stable, this side might be unstable. Or this side might be stable, this might be unstable. So our relationship might be going back and forth. Sometimes we chat, usually not, you're trying to avoid me, but I think everything's okay because it's a stable triangle over here, and I feel pretty good about it. So sometimes one line that is shared between 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 different triangles gets pressure to change or not change simultaneously. So there might be pressure to keep it the same from several triangles on this side. There might be a few powerful triangles over here saying, no, you got to change that relationship. So I'm getting push and pull from different triangles simultaneously. Does that help a little bit? Okay. Can someone provide an example of an unstable triangle? Nobody likes anybody. Nobody gets along with anybody. And this is unstable because this triangle desperately, the triangle itself, wants to change. And it will find stability if just 2 of those 3 people suddenly work things out. Now we work things out and we have a common enemy. So the triangle becomes stable. Great. So you have spouse A, and friend B. Normally, spouse A, friend and friend B, they go to get blueberry pie on Mondays. It's Blueberry Pie Mondays. Every Monday they go and get blueberry pie. It's not about the pie, it's about the conversation. But something happens between friend A and friend B. They didn't like the birthday present they got, or one person showed up late, or they thought the other person was bad-mouthing them behind their back, whatever the case. Now friend A and friend B do not get along. So is this a stable or an unstable triangle? It does depend, and it depends on the lines in the triangle, right? So this line is straight, this line is straight. These two don't get along, so spouse A is caught in the middle. So it depends on the lines in the triangle, and this is an unstable triangle. And unstable triangles want to change. And spouse A is feeling uncomfortable. Like, wow, I see your hand. I'll move the microphone over there. Spouse A is like, wow, I want to go to Blueberry Pie Mondays with friend A and friend B, but we can't do that anymore. So I have to go to Blueberry Mondays with friend A, then Blueberry Pie Fridays with friend B. So on one hand, we get pie twice a week, which is good. On the other hand, we can't all get together. And that's what I really want. I want us to all be together. And my friends won't do it. They are forcing me to try and take their side or hear what they're saying or maybe spend more time with them than the other person. So spouse A is caught in the middle. Or there's a question over here?
No, it sounds like, friend A and friend B are the relationship that you're defining, and that relationship defines whether the triangle is stable or unstable.
Okay. People like math here. If there's an odd number of legs of the triangle where there's tension, if there's an odd number, it's an unstable triangle. If it's an even number, it's a stable triangle. Let's go back to this. Here we go. If there's an odd number of legs, that there is tension in the triangle, that means it's an unstable triangle. Here's 3 legs, that's an odd number. Here's 1 leg, there's an unstable triangle. Stable triangles have an even number of tension legs. Here's 2 and 0. Does that help a little bit? Potentially? Maybe I should have started with that. Yes, okay. Whoa, okay. Spouse A does not like being in here. In fact, spouse A has tried to help friend A and friend B get along. But the more you get involved and become responsible for trying to repair that relationship, the more distress you experience from that relationship. So luckily, spouse A talks with spouse B. Honey, can we talk about this? What do I do here? I want to go to Blueberry Pie Mondays with both of them, but they won't both be there. What do I do? Good news. Spouse B, listening, already has a very well-informed opinion out of each friend. Spouse B likes friend A. Oh, we all get along. I like this person. This person's a stand-up individual. And this, on the top left, is a stable triangle. Spouse B does not like friend B. This is the bottom right triangle is also a stable triangle because spouse A gets along with friend A and friend B and spouse B and friend B, they do not get along. So this is a stable triangle. So there's a mix of stable and unstable triangles here. There will be more opportunities for exploring this, don't you worry. Many slides ahead with more triangles. Okay, different scenario, different spouses. Spouse A and spouse B, they experience some tension. Man, how do we get through this tension? Good news, spouse B still has their parent alive and does the best thing possible and goes to talk to their parent about their marital relationship. Talk to his parent of B. Parent of B, being the good supportive parent they are, oh no, who treated my baby like this? They should not do that. So all of a sudden there's tension between parent of B and spouse A. So is this a stable or unstable triangle? How do we know it's stable? Because, okay, that was the key, right? So there's an even number of legs that have tension. Good. Good. Luckily, spouse A also has a parent. Well, if you talk to your parent, I'm going to talk to my parent. So spouse A goes to the parent of A and says, can you believe what happens? And they told their parent about it. Oh, they what? You should not be sharing that stuff outside of your marriage. Well, I don't like what spouse B did. So all of a sudden, here's another triangle which is also stable. Good. Good news again. Spouse A and spouse B don't get along. Parent of A and parent of B are Facebook friends. So they start chirping at each other on Facebook. So we have 4 triangles here. On the top left, we have parent of A, parent of B, spouse A. That's a stable triangle because the common enemy is parent of B. Then on the top right, we have parent of A, parent of B, spouse B. There's a common enemy, parent of A. On the bottom right, we have another stable triangle. Parent of B gets along with spouse B, and they have a common enemy, spouse A. On the bottom left, we have another stable triangle. Parent of A and spouse A get along, and they have a common enemy, spouse B. So we have 4 unstable triangles, but there's a lot of tension in the family, right? All 4 of these triangles are stable. All 4 triangles are stable, which means that they are resistant to change. Doesn't mean they can't change, but they are resistant to change. And it split down family lines. Do we see that? More good news for you. Spouse A and spouse B decide, you know what? We should get some professional help, repair our relationship. And in doing so, when they repair their relationship, it simultaneously changes 2 triangles that were stable. Now they're unstable. The bottom left, spouse A is trying to maintain a good relationship with their parent of A, and with their spouse. This is an unstable triangle. Same thing on the bottom right. Spouse B is trying to maintain a good relationship with parent of B and spouse A. So there are now 2 unstable triangles that used to be stable. Now they're unstable. Why is Bryan doing this? I'm trying to take you stepping stones so that eventually when we get to Abraham's family, we'll be ready to deal with it. So there's some stable and unstable triangles now. And spouse B says, you know what? Parent of B, why can't you get with the program? We've repaired our relationship here. Why can't you just let this go? And parent of B says, well, I just can't forget how they treated my special son. Well, if you're going to treat my spouse that way, then you're not invited to Thanksgiving. If you can't be kind and polite, you're not invited. All of a sudden, there's this tension between them, maybe because the triangle is seeking stability. So now we have a new stable triangle on the bottom right. The spouses get along, and they have a common enemy, parent of B. Luckily, parent of A, the same sort of thing happens. Spouse A says, look, mom or dad, can you just let it drop between me and my partner? Like, we're both adults here. It's our relationship. You don't need to get involved. You don't need to carry that. And parent of A says, okay, I trust you. It's your relationship, not mine. If you're good with them, then I'm good with them. So all of a sudden, there's a repair of the relationship between parent of A and spouse B. And now we have 4 stable triangles again. On the bottom left, everyone gets along. On the top left, spouse A and parent of A have a common enemy, parent of B. On the top right, parent of A and spouse B have a common enemy, parent of B, and then both spouses have a common enemy, parent of B. So parent of B is like, what happened to my life? We were all getting along, and there's tension, and I'm just trying to be a listening ear, and now everybody's mad at me, and I'm disinvited for Christmas. What happened here? What happened here was parent of B got involved. They said, oh no, at the very, very beginning of the story. They did what to you? Shame on them. Well, I always have your back. If parent of B would have never got involved, parent of B would not be on the outs with everybody right now. And parent of B cannot figure, how did this happen? Well, it's because there are stable triangles that became unstable. Then those unstable triangles sought stability and changed ways we could not have predicted. And now everybody's mad at parent of B, and parent of B feels like they are the victim of all of this, when they're just trying to be a supportive parent. How are we feeling about this? I want you to see that there's a lot of power in the triangle. It's not always the people leaning a certain direction. Sometimes the triangles have their own characteristics which affect the way that we are interacting with other people. Because every behavior is a symptom of the system. And if we can understand the system of that triangle, if it's stable or unstable, we can have a better idea about why certain things seem resistant and other things might flip-flop back and forth. If we can understand the stability and instability of the triangles, it's going to help us navigate our relationships. Let's do a magic trick. Who likes magic? One person likes magic. Great. A few people. Okay. I'm not going to do magic. I wish I could. We're going to do magic here. We have 2 sets of rats. Do we see that? Watch closely. Thank you. We have 2 mice. We have 2 sets of baby rats. 2 mice. Where did those rats go? Okay, watch closely. Where did the rodents go? You can still see them. But they're in the hat, right? We watched that happen, right? If we had people come in and ask where the rats are, they might have to look around for a little bit and then see them. But we know they went in the hat because we got to see this, right? Where did the rats go? In the hat. Let's look at this other scenario. We have two people with big hats. Okay, let's watch. Oh, the rats went in this hat. We saw that? All right. And then now because the rats are gone, these people can get along. Oh, some more rats are going in hats. Because these rats are getting in the way of the relationships, some people are able to take those rats and put it under their hats. Oh, some more rats are going over here. Now all of a sudden, all these rats are cleared out, and we are able to start getting along now, right? Because the rats are all gone. Are the rats gone? No. They're stuffed. Somebody has swallowed the rats so that they can get along with another person. When there's tension in the relationship, sometimes people think, if I just swallow the tension, then we can get along. But it's really pseudo-harmony when one person swallows the tension. Because then the person who swallows the tension, there's a storm in their belly. Because they have to hold it in to make the relationship work. They're swallowing the rats so we can get along. They're sacrificing their own well-being to have some pseudo-harmony in the relationship. The rats are still there, but some people might think, oh, there's no issue anymore. I see no rats. We haven't been fighting about this. We must be all good. When one person has just swallowed all the rats, so we can start to get along. So where'd the rats go? People volunteered or were voluntold to just suck it up and swallow it and get over it. And that doesn't always work. So what are the rules of this church system? In this church, how do we deal with tension between us and other people? Are there rats that we feel like we have to swallow so that we can get along? What about in our families? Do we feel like someone has to take one for the team and swallow the rats? Swallow the tension so we can be one big happy family? Well, whoever's swallowing the rats is paying the price. Because there's a storm inside their belly. There's either going to be tension outside in the relationships or tension within someone. Must someone hide the rats so we can all get along? But what happened to the rats? We may not even know that they're in someone else's hat. So to your question over here earlier, I think it's okay, but for you, it's not okay. Because you swallowed the rats so that we can, looks like we're getting along, but it's just a little bit distant. But we're not getting along because the rats are still there. Yes?
So let me get this right, back to the rats. So the person that swallows a rat is a person that's not the tension. They're swallowing the rats to relieve the tension from the other person, right?
Relieve the tension in the relationship. There's
So what
tension
happens
here.
if the other person, the one that's all causing the tension, can that person swallow rats just to just because they're going to try to keep peace?
Potentially, yeah. The person who's swallowing the rats is trying to keep the peace. You and I are having
And
tension.
they are the ones having the tension, though.
Yes, I've swallowed the tension. Let's say you and I hang out. And every time we hang out, you want to ride horses because you love riding horses. I do not like riding horses. They're uncomfortable, the saddle moving around, unpleasant for me. My back is always sore. But I'm like, man, but I want to hang out with you. So I guess we'll always do whatever you want so we can continue to hang out. I don't want to lose you. So I'm going to keep joining you for riding horses, even though I do not like riding horses. And you think, oh, this is cool. This guy will always join me whenever I want to ride horses. And I want to be with you, but I don't like to ride horses. So I'm swallowing this, riding horses, till finally I might blow up one day. I hate riding horses. Like, whoa, don't overreact. Well, I've swallowed these rats for so long. These rats have been eating away at me. It's really hard because I have this storm in my belly about these stupid horses. And it's like, ugh. But I try and stuff that down so we can get along. But it's pseudo-harmony. It's not real harmony. It looks like it on the outside because I volunteered to carry the brunt and carry that tension inside of me. What happened to the rats? We don't always know. The person who's wearing the hat knows. The person who's wearing the hat knows what kind of rats are in there, but nobody else does. It's not public knowledge. These rats will eat away at that person's well-being. That person is sacrificing their self, sacrificing their own well-being to try and keep the relationship afloat. And the longer the rats are in the hat, the more likely this will lead to rat resentment. It's hard to hold on to a lot of rats. There's a hand back here.
that system you were raised in?
Yes. People who swallow the rats often come from a family, this is what you're supposed to do. Someone's got to swallow it for us to get along. And I guess it's my turn. Or you get used to swallowing rats. That's what you're expected to do. This is how we resolve conflict. Let's get rid of the rats. I do not want tension out here, so I got to get rid of that tension. I got to swallow it. Oh, good. Now we can get along. But it's pseudo-harmony, right? So I'm still paying the price. People choose or are forced to swallow the storm so that they won't have choppy waters in their relationships. But the internal storm eats away at them like a nest of rats. So just because we're suddenly getting along, does that mean that the tension is gone? Man, I don't know. Depends on what people have underneath their hats. Oftentimes there's a violated value which leads to tension in the relationships. And sometimes these violations are not even on purpose. I had no idea that you thought this or you felt this way. I didn't even know. But you felt like you had to just swallow the rats so we could keep going along. So I have no idea. You have no idea. You're continually forcing me to ride these big animals. You had no idea that I didn't like horses. You thought that I did because I kept on coming for every week for 3 years. But I just never voiced that I didn't like horses because I was worried that if I brought this up, then you would go riding horse by yourself and wouldn't want to hang out with me on Tuesdays. So you had no idea because these people who hide these rats often keep them hidden. I feel like they have to. So we can have pseudo-harmony in our relationships. So what's the rat result? There's thin, surface-level relationships with other people. So in some ways, swallowing rats actually serves an important function. It's a defense mechanism. I'm swallowing these rats, and then I justify, well, I don't want to get close to this person because of how they hurt me or how upset I am about their political beliefs or whatever it is. So that means I don't need to get close and work through our relationship. So now I've swallowed the rats, and then I continue to use these rats as a justification for kind of keeping you at arm's length. Because if I have rats, I don't have to be vulnerable. Because if I get vulnerable, there's a chance a rat might slip out, and all of a sudden, whoa, where'd this rat come from? Well, I've had this rat in my hat for 3 years. What? And then people get upset. And I don't want that to happen. And I don't want to deal with the differences between our clans, how you view the world versus how I view the world. I don't want to deal with that. So let's just swallow the rats and just charge through. Water under the bridge. But it's not water under the bridge because they're swallowing rats. Instead, if we have the courage to have real deep conversations about these differences, if we choose to disengage, this will potentially lead to more polarization in our family or in our church family. Instead of talking about these violated values, we might avoid confrontation, and therefore we might avoid conversations because some conversations might lead to confrontations. So I'd rather just keep it light. Let's not talk about anything deep or meaningful. Otherwise, rats might scurry out of our hats. The result? Highly polarized churches, highly polarized families, and whatever the other group suggests will automatically be perceived as a threat, even if it's a good idea. This happens. Be courageous with me. We're going to talk a little bit about politics. And we pretend it's a two-party system just for simplicity's sake. Whatever the Republicans suggest, Democrats will say, oh, bad idea, right? And whatever the Democrats suggest, Republicans will say, oh, terrible idea, no matter what it is. Because part of our responsibility is to keep our clans distant. And whatever they're doing is wrong. It's easier that way. It's just cleaner. Whatever they do is bad. Whatever we do is good. It's just easier that way, right? I don't want to deal with overlapping nuances. I don't want to admit that this idea they have is actually pretty good, because then I might have to buy into the rest of their worldview, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to deal with those tensions. Let's just, they're bad, we're good. And it keeps everybody safe and secure in their own camp, right? Every church decision, every political decision, every family decision can feel like a lightning rod for conflict because of all the rats that people have swallowed. Everything becomes right versus wrong instead of, that's different and I don't like it. Different and I don't like it is much easier to handle than right and wrong. If it's right and wrong, we have a moral obligation to defend our position and poke holes in their position. If it's just right, if it's just different, I don't like it, it's like, well, I don't like it, I don't prefer it, But it's not right or wrong, it's just different. That's a very different posture than if we're polarized and it's a right versus wrong conversation. So perhaps consider starting a conversation like this. This might be what needs to happen if people are trying to let some of the rats out of their hats. Might go like this. Can we talk through something? I think that I like you, but a part of me still is upset or hurt or angry about such and such that happened. And I'm not sure what to do about it. Can we talk about it? You're just naming the rat that you have. You're not blaming anybody. You're just saying, hey, this happened. I'm feeling this. Can we talk about the rat? I feel like, or I have to swallow this tension in order for us to continue to get along. But it's eating me up on the inside. And this means we have a superficial relationship instead of a real connection. Can we find a time to talk about this? To actually deal with the rats, instead of just continuing to swallow them. And then passing these rats on to future generations. So 2 people are getting along, great. 2 people not getting along, okay. 2 people getting along, but 1 person has rats, there's still tension here. It doesn't look like it, but for this person, definitely tension. The person on the right, we're getting along because they don't even know that the rats are there. See the time. All right, 2:40. Any questions about rats or mice? No questions? So either I explained it well or so poorly you don't even know where to begin.
So I want to know if I understand this correctly. Swallowing rats would be not showing up by saying what we value or prefer and just going along with whatever is. Is that correct?
That's one way that we swallow rats. So not showing up and sharing what we value or prefer because they're worried that if I like something different. So if we are ordering pizza and you love onions, Bryan hates onions, and you order, oh, let's get onions on the pizza. I'm like, I don't want to fight over this. Sure. Okay, we can do that. Or can we get peppers with that? Like, sure, but then when the pizza comes out, these onions are in the way. I have to pick the onions out. I didn't want to go to pizza with you anymore because I'm trying to avoid the onions. So instead of me saying, I'm really uncomfortable with the onions, maybe it's better if we get 2 separate pizzas. Or we could potentially do it half and half. Sometimes when they put the pizza toppings on, they're a little bit loosey-goosey. So even though where they cut the pizza, we might have to renegotiate the safe parts of the pizza so you can have all the onions because I don't want any of that. And actually talking about it, but sometimes that's scary to do that. Because what if I bring up onions and they think that I'm weird or they're upset? Because everybody likes onions. There's a risk involved whenever I'm vulnerable. And because it's so risky, I'd rather just swallow the rats and never bring it up. Or I'd eat the onions, crunching through them, that sulfuric flavor, in silence, but I'm smiling and gritting my teeth. That's what I'm supposed to do. That's one way that swallowing the rats can show up. Does that help a little bit? Yes.
I'm on that same subject. So I would say, let's say you're swallowing the rats in a relationship, like the triangle,
Yep.
and you have to hang out with a friend that you like hanging out, but they have a friend that they hang out, and you don't really get along with that friend, so you just swallow the rats.
Like, okay, it's worth it
And
so I
I'm
can
just
get
going
along.
to say, I think it happens. It's happened to me. If you hang out long enough, your rats just kind of go away because you're like, hey, I guess I can kind of get along with this guy after
They
a
could
long
go
time.
away. They could go away. You might realize, I actually get along with them. Or the things I was concerned about wasn't that big of an issue. I thought it was, but it doesn't seem like it's an issue anymore. So either I don't have any rats, this other person might have swallowed the rats, or maybe they don't, and you're like, actually, we're getting along okay. That's a possibility. The other possibility is the rats eat away with you, and you just start spending less and less time with the friend that you like because you always know that tag along is coming, and it's not even worth it anymore. Or is Isaiah coming? Well, then I'm not coming. You just make that very clear. And the other friend might get upset with you. Well, what's wrong with Isaiah? He's a good guy. I don't know. We don't get along. We don't see eye to eye. We butt heads. Come on, get over it. All of a sudden, it's because there's this unstable triangle where you have this friend trying to get along with you and Isaiah, but you and Isaiah have this tension. So the friend is trying to get you to get on board with this idea, because the person who's stuck in the middle of an unstable triangle just wants the other two people to get along. That's all I want. Then we could be one big happy family. But that doesn't always work out that way. All right. We have Jacob, Rachel, Leah, Joseph, and Leah's sons. Let's dive into this family. Hopefully we feel a little more comfortable with the stable and unstable language. We'll see what happens. We know that Jacob prefers Rachel, right? He worked 14 years for Rachel. He worked 0 years for Leah. So we know there's tension between them, right? We also know there's tension between the two wives. So is this a stable or unstable triangle? Yes, this is a stable triangle. Good, good. All right, first part of the test is good. See the second question. We know that Jacob loves Joseph, right? It would make sense that Rachel and Joseph get along. So is this a stable or unstable triangle? Question number 2. We're doing good so far. Love it. There's tension, obviously, between Leah's sons and Joseph, correct? Otherwise, they wouldn't have tried to sell him as a slave to some extended family members as they're going down to Egypt. And we know that Leah and Leah's sons, there's a connection between them. Now we have all these other triangles. We have the stable triangle on the bottom left. Leah, Leah's sons, and Joseph is the enemy. We have Rachel against Leah and Leah against Joseph. That's a stable triangle. We also have the triangle between Jacob and Joseph and Leah, all stable triangles. We know that there's some tension between Leah's sons and Jacob as well because of how he's treating their biological mother. So there's tension here. And if you parse it all out, every single triangle here in this family is stable, which means there's multiple layers of triangles that are resistant to change. Doesn't mean they can't change, but they're resistant to change, and it's split right down family lines, right? Who the biological mother is. And this is a mess, right? A mess. So what is the sweet solution that the brothers come up with? Boom, kick out Joseph. So first, Rachel passes away. And we'll say Rachel goes away, Benjamin is here, but the tension between Leah and Rachel will still be here. And there's still tension here. So Leah's sons say, kick out Joseph. We can't even stand to talk with him. He's separate from us in so many different ways. Let's get rid of him. So now only Benjamin is here. And so this is what's happening in the family. If you remember at the very end of Genesis, when we talked about this last night, where Joseph sends his brothers away with the food the second time they came down. He sends them all away with Benjamin, with their sacks of food, and then Joseph sends a servant after them to stop them and says, look, stop for a second. Somebody stole the divination cup. So the servant goes around, and all the brothers say, nobody stole the divination cup. We didn't do it. I'm getting some tingles, some goosebumps. He finally gets to the servant gets to Benjamin's sack, opens it up, and lo and behold, pulls up the divination cup. And all of the brothers tear their clothes, right, in grief, because they do not want to lose Benjamin. This is very different from how they responded 7 chapters earlier when they were trying to get rid of Joseph and they tore Joseph's clothes, right? They tore Joseph's clothes, they put blood on it, they brought the torn favorite cloak to the father saw it and tore his clothes, and now finally, these brothers have a different response to the favorite son from the favorite wife. They don't want to lose him. They're tearing their clothes. This is the family system that Joseph is testing. How are we doing so far with this? Okay. So something has changed between how it was when Joseph was there to where it is now when Joseph is testing the family system. Now here's Bryan's going to step off the stage, or at least move over to the side. This is Bryan's perspective of what could have happened, how the family could have changed. So, we know that Rachel's passed away, and if you remember the end of the story, Jacob requests to be buried with Leah, not with his favorite wife. Right? So something has shifted by the end of their marriage, right? He requests to be buried with Leah, which tells me maybe there's some sort of repair that could have happened between Leah and Jacob. Otherwise, he may not have requested that. If that's the case, this changes a few other triangles, right? Changing one leg right up here at the very top. This changes the triangle down here with Benjamin, because now Jacob is in the middle of having potentially a better relationship with his life with his wife Leah and with his son Benjamin. There's also this triangle here on the top left, Leah getting along with her husband and her sons, but there's tension between her sons and Jacob. We know that Jacob is finally convinced to trust his sons to take Benjamin down the second time, down to Egypt. So maybe he's like, maybe I trust you a little bit more. Now we know at the end of his life he ends up cursing some of his sons, so he's actually swallowing the rats for a while. Maybe some things have been repaired. So this becomes two unstable triangles. And unstable triangles want to change. Good. Which means that the unstable triangles put pressure on the stable triangles because each triangle is trying to look out for itself, and unstable triangles are trying to somehow become stable. So maybe there's some repair between Leah's sons and Jacob, and that would make this top left triangle potentially stable. And then we just have tension with Benjamin, the baby of the family. His biological mother is gone. In fact, the tension between Leah and Rachel was due to infertility, the infertility wars, and because Jacob preferred Rachel. But if Jacob is now getting along with Leah, and he's getting along with the sons, why are we still mad at Benjamin? He's the baby of the family. Okay, potentially, we're all getting along better now by the time Joseph has this litmus test that is the divination cup, and now he's testing, and he finds out the brothers are actually he gets more tingles. In support of Benjamin, something has shifted and changed in the family system. Does Bryan know whether or not it happened this way? No. Bryan doesn't know. But I'm imagining how it could have played out, because we know it's different than when Joseph was first kicked out. All right, mental break time. Let's take like 2-3 minutes, and then we're going to come back and spend the rest of the time talking about detriangulation. So if you want to get up, move around, let's do 5 minutes. Let's do a bio break if you want some water, walk around the facility, do some stretches, jumping jacks, whatever you want to do. Come back in about 5 minutes. 5 minutes, so if you can hear my voice, that's a secret sign between you and me that we're going to begin again. And now, for those of you who have been persistent and stayed through this whole thing, finally we're going to have some resolution. What do I do? Now that I've learned this stuff, I've increased my insight, what am I supposed to do? How can I navigate my relationships differently? So hopefully there's a payoff here. We've talked about triangles as the three-person emotional configuration, talked about how triangles, when we engage in triangles, we become brokers of hot potatoes of anxiety, just passing anxiety around. We talked about how anxiety can become stuck in family systems. We talked about your role in the triangle. You can generate, amplify, or dampen. We talked about your position. You can be an insider or an outsider. We talked about the stability of the triangles. Triangles themselves have characteristics separate from the people in them or the parties in them. Some triangles are stable, they want to stay the same. Some triangles are unstable, they want to change. What do we do with all this information? What are we supposed to do with it? What are some actionable items that we can do to change the way we walk and move and operate in our relationships? That's really what we're going to get to, right? How do I become more healthy myself in my relationships? And some people may not like these changes I'm going to recommend, because they liked you the way that you were before. They knew what to expect from you. They may not like these changes. They might protest these changes. But you get to decide what you do with your life. You get to decide how you approach these relationships. And the first thing is your mindset. Recognize that you are in triangles. I want you to start to identify triangles, the more active ones, the tricky ones that you have to navigate on a regular basis. Increase your mindset knowing, okay, triangles exist, and I didn't know this before, or I knew a little bit, but now I have hopefully a little better understanding. Now that I know that triangles exist, this helps inform how I can approach this. We cannot completely avoid being in triangles. We will always be in triangles. After I leave today to fly home, I will still be in a triangle with you, potentially. It may not be active, or it might be active. You might go home and say, I didn't like what Bryan said. Someone else goes home, I like what Bryan said. And all of a sudden, you and this other person might disagree about your experience of this seminar. And I'm in this triangle, and I have no idea that I'm in this triangle. So just because you leave doesn't mean that, just because I leave does not mean that I leave the triangle, because triangles are forever. But I can avoid being an active participant. If one of you calls me or texts me, I can say that's your issue, not mine. So let's start by reflecting upon some of the triangles in which we are involved. We have to have some reflection, plan ahead, so we don't just shoot from the hip, just fly off the cuff. We have to have a plan about how we're going to approach this. So how to detriangulate yourself? 2 questions. If you can answer these 2 questions, you are well on your way to detriangulating yourself from these tricky relationships. And again, it does not mean you remove yourself from your triangle, but you put yourself in a much better spot when it comes to engaging these triangles. The first one, before you do or say anything, remember there's a chance you are already absorbing their anxiety before you even respond to them. So because of that, if you're catching or absorbing their anxiety that was not yours to begin with, so when you think about this, you suspect that what they're bringing to you is not your problem, then you know the anxiety does not belong to you. There's these 2 questions you have to navigate, but first you have to recognize there's a chance you're catching their anxiety. And you have to know that your responsibility is for yourself, not for the other person. There's a whole bunch of mindset stuff that happens before you ask these questions, and you have to ask yourself, is this my problem? And is this my anxiety? Or am I catching their anxiety? And boy, it feels like my problem. Is this my problem? Is this my anxiety? Now, I do not believe that we should become cold-hearted robots. Not my problem, not want to help. But I think we can be more judicial, more intentional about deciding whether or not we jump in to help someone else. I'm not saying, I don't want you walking away from here saying, Bryan says we shouldn't help other people. That's not what I'm saying. But you want to be smart. Is this my problem? Is this my anxiety? If it's my anxiety and my problem, I'm probably an insider to this issue. If it's not my problem, and it is my anxiety, just check yourself. Is it really your anxiety, or are you catching? Are you catching someone else's anxiety? If you're catching someone else's anxiety, you can say, oh, it feels like my anxiety, but I didn't have it before they started calling me, or before they walked in the room. Or maybe you're like, Bryan, I don't know if it's my anxiety or their anxiety. I don't know, it's just a big old mess of hot potatoes. Okay, that's fine. But at least you did a little bit of reflection, trying to think about whether it was your anxiety or someone else's anxiety. That's really important, because if we cannot differentiate whose anxiety it is, we might both feel like we have to solve this. And maybe it's just one person's responsibility. So is this my problem, this is my anxiety? And then if you can answer those two questions, here are two important things you can do. The first one is draw out a triangle. Draw the different parties in the triangle. So if there's tension or no tension, look at it and identify it as a stable or unstable triangle. And then you can say, this is a stable triangle. And this triangle is resistant to change. That's why it's so hard for me to repair this relationship with the other person. I'm trying to repair it, and they say they want to, but we're not getting anywhere. Maybe part of this is because the triangle is stable and the triangle is trying to not make any changes. You'd have to push a little bit harder. Or talk about this being a case and maybe find a creative way around it. Or maybe you draw the triangle and you say, this is why it's so uncomfortable for me to visit my family again, because I am in some unstable triangles and I'm being forced to choose different sides, and I don't want to do that. That's why I'm so stressed every time I go and spend time with them. And then make a lesson plan. The tricky relationships that you engage in on a regular basis, or infrequently, but the ones that you spend a lot of time thinking about, you will continue to engage in those triangles. So make a lesson plan. Here's what I want to do moving forward. And it might look like this. Setting boundaries does not mean you're a cold-hearted robot, but setting some boundaries is really more for yourself and having a very clear mindset about how you want to approach this. So the first is, if it's not your anxiety, not your problem, you want to move to the outside position and say, I know what's happening here. They want some help, and they're coming to me for some support. That's so nice of them. I get to decide whether I want to support them, because it's not my problem, and it's not my anxiety. Again, if there's issues of safety, this might be different, right? But if it's not issues of safety, and even if there is, but you have to seek some professional help with that, you get to decide, okay, I know what's really happening here. I'm on the outside. I don't want to choose sides. I don't want to make judgments because I'm on the outside. It's their issue to deal with. And because it's their issue to deal with, the best thing I can do is be an anxiety dampener. They come to me with their heavy things, the hot potatoes they can't carry, and I want to be an anxiety dampener, meaning I do not want to catch their anxiety. I want to be cool, calm, collected, because just like anxiety can spread from person to person, calmness also spreads. In fact, the reason they're coming to me is because they are seeking calmness. Triangulation is an anxiety management strategy. They're trying to offload as many hot potatoes as they can so they can experience more calmness. Guess what? I can offer calmness without taking away their hot potatoes. So I'm offering this calmness, and this calmness can be contagious and transferable to them. And I want to recognize where I'm located in the triangle that I drew out, that I sketched out, to understand what's happening. Now you might say, Bryan, that's all and good, but when people come to me with their hot potatoes, how do I not take those potatoes home? And here's my recommendation. I want you to imagine this this basket has some pencils in it, but we're going to pretend that it's empty. And when someone comes to talk with you with their hot potatoes, they're trying to offload the hot potatoes. I want you to be as calm as possible and just pretend like your hands are right here. So whatever they share with you, boop, bounces off your hands into the container. Boop, bounces off the hands into the container. They can share as much as they want, and you're allowed to say, I can't handle anymore. You handle as much as you want, just bouncing off into the container, and then you leave the container with them. You don't take this home. But how do you do that? How do you navigate this so people know that you care, so you're not abandoning them? And the solution is pretty simple. You're using a specific type of language when you talk to them. Very specific type of language, and most of us are able to do this. So from a neutral yet encouraging stance, you'll use second person plural or second person singular language. You. Wow, that's hard. So what are you going to do next? What do you think needs to happen next? Because you're dampening the anxiety and you're giving them an opportunity to reflect what they think that needs to happen. I don't know, Bryan. I just came to you for some help. I don't know what to do next. Okay. The good news is I know that you're resourceful. And I believe you'll be able to find a creative way to work through this. What do you suspect is the first step in that? And get them to try and develop their own ideas. What we don't want to happen is for David to come to us and me being King Saul, forcing my armor on David, and then David has to go out and fight Goliath in my armor. We don't want that. We want armor that fits David. So what do you want to fight with, David? What do you think needs to happen? And really empower that to happen. Well, I know this is difficult. I'm so sorry this is happening to you. But I also know you are capable of finding a course of action that will ultimately be in your best interest. What do you think that would look like? Again, saying you. You're not saying I'm not going to support you, but it's you because you're sending the subtle message, it's their problem to deal with. Doesn't mean I'm not going to support you, but it's your problem. I'm sorry that you're in this difficult situation. Nobody wants to be here. But I'm also confident that you two can come to some sort of resolution. What do you think you need to do to get there? And using this language over and over and over, every time people bring you hot potatoes, you will train them that you're not willing to accept their hot potatoes onto your plate. You'll be here to listen, maybe support, and you can put a stop to it if you're like, I just can't do it today. Say, I can't do it today. Oh, that's so hard. So what are you going to do about it? And in doing so, I am empowering them to develop some of their own ideas that they could use to solve their own problems, and then they'll realize that they developed their own mastery instead of me robbing them of that opportunity. Oh, you having a hard time? Here's a solution. What are they going to learn? Every time I have a problem, they have to go to Bryan. All of a sudden, that's our relationship. Instead of, oh, this is so hard. This is still happening? Oh, this is hard. Okay. What have you done? What have you tried? Okay. What's another way we could approach this? And really allowing them to use their creative skills to do this themselves. Now, obviously, there are different people who have different support needs, right? We might need to adjust our approach when it comes to that. And maybe some of you are thinking, well, I come from a culture where we are not allowed to say this. You have to join them. Okay. You can say we, or what can I do? How can we help you? You're saying we, which is third person. Sorry, we is first person singular. So I is first person singular, we is first person plural. You can use first person singular I or first person plural we, but you mean you. So how are we going to handle this? What are you going to do, right? And really we are empowering them to find some sort of creative solution. And if we can do this, if you're able to de-triangulate yourself, meaning you're not catching other people's anxiety, you're not taking on their problems, you're developing a lesson plan based on the triangle, and when people bring you their hot potatoes, you know how to handle it. Oh, it's not my anxiety, not my problem. They're just trying to remain calm. And they're seeking the calmness. So I'm going to dampen their anxiety. I'm not going to catch their anxiety. And I'm going to give them an opportunity to reflect on what they can do better. Then all of a sudden, you're more aware of what's actually happening instead of getting sucked into their tension. And you can choose to act in accordance with your values. Because as soon as you jump into someone else's mess, man, it's easy to get stuck there. And easy to feel like you have to find a solution for them when maybe it's not your responsibility. So when you resist getting pulled into a triangle, you do not react to that anxiety that's present. Instead, you can respond in accordance with your values. And if you can do this, you might be able to even take a further step back to see what's happening. What's the violated value that's happening here that might be underlying all this? What's really at stake that's driving this difficulty, this conversation? And then if they come to you 10 times still with challenges, you can just name what's happening. Wow, this is still hard, isn't it? You've tried all these different things, been going on for months or years. I wonder if you've ever considered seeking some professional support. Again, not saying, okay, I'm going to call someone for you. Here, I know who to call. But you can offer a reference, get some support. What we don't want to do is someone is learning how to tie their shoes, rob them of the opportunity to practice and struggle, and eventually learn how to do it so they're capable of that. We don't want to do that. We want to be able to support them so they can learn how to do that on their own. So remaining on the outside and remaining calm will train other people that you are not on call for them whenever they want you. You do not have to be on call. But Bryan, that's our family rules. Okay, I mean, if you want to do that, then go for it. But if you want to have some boundaries, you can let the family know, I want to make these changes. And they might protest those changes. They're allowed to. They're allowed to say, I don't want you to do that. Like, that's not the way an uncle or an aunt or a brother or sister would respond. Like, part of our family, you always pick up the call, you pick up the phone day or night. Okay, that's what normally happens. But now, I'm not willing to sacrifice my sleep to do that. You can call me any time of day, just not in the middle of the night. And your calm unwillingness to be roped into their triangle will model a new and better way of managing the anxiety of the relationships in the system. So they keep coming to me. I keep saying, you, I'm here to support, you. One day, they're going to pick up the phone to call Bryan, and they'll say, wait a second. I actually have an idea I want to try first. And they go and try it. And they call Bryan and say, hey, Bryan, just want to see what's going on. I just want to let you know such and such happened, but I dealt with it. I handled it. And I feel really good about that. You can say, wow, you did that? Good job, you. We're able to celebrate that. We couldn't do that if I came in with a hero with my panacea to solve their problems, right? They'd miss out on that opportunity. So, this is the last thing we're going to do. We're going to have a little conversation. What can I do to de-triangulate myself from a challenging triangle? I had 2 questions and 2 different action tasks. How could the ability to de-triangulate myself help my family or my church? Get in small groups of 2, 3, 4, and 5. Try and answer these questions. All right, who wants another minute? No hands for another minute. That means we're going to, oh, one hand, okay. I'm feeling a little more generous. We'll give you another minute. Tap into the wisdom of the group. What can I do? I had 2 suggested questions and 2 suggested actionable items. What can I do to de-triangulate myself from a challenging triangle? Raise your hand. Boundaries, okay. Boundaries, what do you mean? What do you mean by boundaries?
Boundaries, set your boundaries, what you'll settle for if you
Okay.
want to be a part of it. Communicate.
Okay, but before you even set your boundaries, what kind of mindset could you have to help you? Not my problem. Okay, so asking the question, is this my problem or not? Yeah. And what's the other question? Is it my anxiety or am I catching someone else's anxiety? Yeah. If you can answer those 2 questions, you slow down the process instead of finding yourself reacting to what's happening. Okay, hold on a second. Is it my anxiety or their anxiety? And is this my problem or their problem? Is it both our problems? Oh, it's definitely mine. No, this is theirs. Okay, I'm catching their anxiety. It's not my anxiety. It's their problem. Then what are some things I could do? What?
You can offer, you can ask questions to help them to think about. You can ask questions to help them to think about how, what some possible solutions to the problem.
So if you ask questions to help them think about possible solutions, what type of language would you want to use in those questions?
You.
Yes, you want to use you. Second person singular or second person plural. If you come from a culture that we have to do this together, you can use first person singular or first person plural, the we, but you're thinking you, right? Because you don't want to rob them of the opportunity to tie their shoes. Good. Yeah, so what do you think needs to happen? You can help them reflect, but you do this from a dampener standpoint, right? If you come in all hot and bothered, okay, what do you need? What do you need to do? What's the first step? Wow, that is not going to help anything, right? You're catching their anxiety, you're amplifying it, and now you're hoping they can find a solution so you can feel calmer. That's not what you want. You start out calm, you share your calmness with them, and you empower them to find some sort of solution. Good. And how could this ability to de-triangulate myself help my family or my church? Oh, I think I heard something back.
There's no source of conflict from you.
What?
There's no source of conflict, but I'm not saying conflict as an argument to reach a standpoint, but volatile conflict.
Okay, because we're able to address this volatile conflict instead of being just passed around, right? Or stuffed and ignored, right? Then that unresolved conflict does not become stuck in the church or the family system. We're addressing it. Then people don't have to stuff it, right? In a perfect world, all of us would be brave and courageous. All of us would know our values. All of us would have confidence that we would be able to engage in a conversation. There might be some tension, but we would be able to engage in a conversation, and the other person would be able to work with us and to come to some sort of solution that meets both of our needs. But we don't live in that world, right? And sometimes we are a little bit afraid to approach it that way because it's risky. Then we're vulnerable. We talked about what we were concerned about, what hurt us, how can we address it? And there's a chance that the person might slam that down. Oh, I don't want to do that ever again. I'll never touch that again with a 10-foot pole. That's one approach to protect yourself. The other approach is, well, I'm not safe doing it with this person. Doesn't mean that I have to abandon this approach with everyone else. With this person, not so safe until things feel safer. Good. And if we can start to do this, we start to deal with our own hot potatoes. Whose anxiety is it? Whose problem is it? And all of a sudden we start to take care of our own hot potatoes instead of always passing these hot potatoes around. All right, we're at the end of the seminar. I want to show you one more little comic after this, but if you have a smartphone and you're interested, I have a 3 to 4 minute survey. You can give me feedback on this seminar. If you want to do it, you do not have to, but I'll leave it up here for a minute or two so you can download this QR code to your phone. I do read the feedback, and I do make subtle adjustments as time goes on. If there's only one person in this room that says one thing, Bryan, you should wear a big hat next time I'll look at it. But if I keep hearing the same sort of feedback, I go, oh man, maybe I should bring a sombrero. So once I start hearing more like a pattern of feedback, I start to make adjustments. All right, I'm going, and you can actually find the QR code on the back of your handouts as well, if you don't want to use the code up here. So you go home and realize, I really did want to give Bryan some feedback, but I had a burning question. I didn't want him to move past it too quickly, so you can always give feedback at home. All right, here's the last little comic, and then we'll pray, and then I'll stay here for more questions. I finally found it after 15 years, the scroll of truth. You're catching their anxiety if you're solving their problem. I don't like it. If you find yourself solving their problem, it's because you've already caught their anxiety. So those two questions, is it my problem, is it my anxiety, really help to slow down the process so you can be intentional about how you operate. All right, let's pray. Father God, thank you for this opportunity to talk about relationships. Our relationships are tricky, messy, hard, painful. We need some help and some guidance. I pray that you send your Holy Spirit to give us some insight into our own behavior patterns and how we might be responsible for making these relationships more tricky. I pray you give us the courage to try and approach this with our values in mind and our willingness to be open and curious and flexible. And I pray you give us the fortitude to move forward in perhaps a new way so we navigate our important relationships differently. Thank you, God, for never giving up on us. Amen. All right, thank you all for staying the faithful all the way to the end. I'm here for more questions if you want to afterwards, but if you just want to take off, blessings on you. Thank you.